we ready, Oliver?
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Okay, go.
Okay, hello. So, point to a sock to eliminate. Quick. That one. Eliminated. Well, I'm pleased you didn't pick that one. Punching. Right. So, people often talk about doing the impossible. And as a magician, that's kind of literally my job. So, I thought it would be fun to share with you 3 psychological principles from magic that you can apply to hopefully help improve your communications or your creativity. So first things first, a lot of magic is involved in misdirection. But as Gary Kurtz says, misdirection has nothing to do with distraction and everything to do with controlling attention. Because if you don't make sure people are listening, it doesn't matter what you say. You need to grab their attention. But how do you grab their attention? Well, one way that I think is underused, which suits tonight, is to be unexpected. Very much like tonight. And so that's why 2 of my favorite magicians are called Penn and Teller, who you may know. And they do a great trick which starts with a classic pick a card. And it's good. But then they smear bacon fat on the card. And then they tip it into a cage that's round Teller's head. And they tip in a bucket of live rats. And then cover it with a cloth. There is blood spurting out on it. And eventually they pull up the cloth and they show that one of the rats has found the chosen card in its teeth. So very unexpected, but because of that, very attention grabbing. So, well, you don't have to go to that extremes. You can do things that are unexpected. Another example from when I was at uni studying psychology, they did an experiment with babies and they showed them, not in a Stranger Things way, but they showed them a picture that they'd seen and an unexpected picture. And they found that even babies stare longer at the unexpected picture. Card trick time. Hello. So, you're fine. Right, please just say stop for me as I go through. Ignore those. There we go. All right, remember that? Yes. So we've got the 3 of hearts, and it matches. Now, if you were assuming, no time, if we were assuming that the cards were all different, perhaps now you're assuming they're all the same, and they are all the same, but they're not the 3. The rest of the cards are entirely blank. So, assumptions. Go on, 1 pack. There we go. There we go. All right. So, assumptions. Why do we follow assumptions if they lead them ourselves astray? Well, I think one of the reasons is the way our brain works. Our brains are what's known as cognitive misers, so they're trying to save energy. And they do that partly by following heuristics, or rules of thumb, in other words, assumptions. But if we question those assumptions, then we can often come up with more creative angles. So in magic, there's a trick where you put a coin through an empty wine bottle. But I thought, why not do it with a jar of pasta sauce instead? Questioned the assumption, took ages, but worked out a way to do it while the safety button's still down, which I do in my stage show sometimes. Next up, in the world of business, there we go, cool. So, as you probably know, Whitney Wolfe Herd questioned why men make the first move in dating apps a lot of the time, so she founded Bumble, and of course it went pretty well, and now, 50 million users, and she's become a billionaire, all from questioning that assumption, amongst others. And finally, in terms of towns and safety, Hans Mondelman, Dutch, he questioned whether having clear road signs actually reduced accidents. So we removed them from busy junction, and because it was less clear, everyone died. No, joke. No, people paid more attention, and so accidents actually went down. Okay, number 3 is think silly, and be prepared to look silly because it's actually smart. So obviously, it can be scary public speaking, and as a magician, kind of doubly so because you're not only talking, you're also doing sleight of hand, and you're trying not to get caught. So big chance of looking silly. But if you don't want to look silly, you should do these things. So don't question convention, don't play, don't take risks, and don't stand out. It's a good way. The problem is if you are trying to be creative, obviously it's kind of the complete opposite of what you want to do. So if you want to be creative, then you do question convention, you do play, you do take risks. And if you do that, there is a big chance that you will stand out, which is a scary thing, but it's worth it because you can come up with, more interesting random ideas. So a few real-world examples from different areas of ideas that seemed silly, but maybe weren't. So helping seriously impoverished people by wearing clown noses and doing comedy sketches sounds silly, but of course that's comic relief, which, 40 years on, they've made over $1 billion for charity. So it's not that silly. Another example, making an MP3 player that has no screen and jumbles up the tracks so you don't know what's coming next. It's pretty silly, but that's the iPod Shuffle, which sold millions for a decade. Does anyone have one or had one? Yes, there we go. Perfect. And finally, there we go. Bankrolling a massive Hollywood movie where one of the main characters is a talking tree is objectively quite a silly thing to do. But turns out Guardians of the Galaxy, it's done pretty well. So 3 films in, everything else is done. Not actually that silly, but scary to announce it. So to sum up from me, so 3 creative tricks from magic. So number 1, be unexpected, like tonight. Number 2, question assumptions. And number 3, think silly and risk looking silly. And speaking of looking silly. So this is a purple cape that I wore to quite a formal event, quite a big one, wasn't fancy dress, had about 100 people, big chance of looking silly. And that event was my wedding day. And it was totally worth it. That's it from me. Thank you very much.